This is a TV show called Flashpoint. It's owned and operated by televangelist Kenneth Copeland, and it is absolutely unhinged from reality. They had the head of a Republican think tank come on to talk about how Venezuela has dirty oil and how we want to use good, clean American oil instead of evil, dirty socialist oil from third world countries. Naturally, I wanted to see just how unhinged it gets. Let's get into it. Gonna play some Donkey Kong Country while we listen to these interesting people. Interesting is probably not quite the right word, but it's the word that I've chosen, so it's the word we'll use. Okay, let's listen to these Nutter Butters spout off nonsense because, yeah, it's deeply entertaining to listen to. I skipped through the intro. The first 5 minutes are just him talking about going to Phoenix and stuff.
I'm going to see you in Phoenix, but right now there's a lot happening. I want to introduce Carla Sands. She's the Vice Chair of the Center for Energy and Environment with our friends, the America First Policy Institute.
Okay, I'd never heard of this woman before, but apparently, yeah, she's part of some think tank or something. And oh my God, dude, she says the strangest stuff.
She's a leading voice and thought leader in advancing policies that safeguard American energy independence and environmental progress. That's a mouthful, Carla, but thank you for being on the program.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when people demand, like, really long introductions. Like, come on, you're not that special, right?
It's my pleasure, Gene, to join you and all of your viewers knowing that we have to get our American energy independence back while we take care of our planet. And that means we want American energy, not energy from dirty places like Venezuela.
Wow. Coded language much? Venezuela is dirty, apparently? That's deeply, deeply messed up to frame things like that. Honestly, disgusting to frame various different countries like that as dirty.
Boy, that's true.
No, it's not.
Let's talk about, just give me a real quick overview. What you're seeing, you've been involved in this for a while now. You know, a lot of Americans really don't understand, and they're like, well, I guess America really isn't a leader anymore. Is that really the case, or are there just bad decisions being made?
So it's not the case. We actually are a leader in energy right now. In fact, just under the ground, under my feet here in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I just want to pause here. That's really interesting that she's basically admitting to the fact that the U.S. is a leader in energy. That is correct. That's correct. The U.S. has massive, like, not just oil reserves, but like we have like oil refineries and all this other stuff. We have massive reserves here, Alaska and Texas and a bunch of other places. That is very true. But I just find it really interesting that they would bring her on in the first place to make this point, because these guys seem to have some weird vested interest in making people believe that, like, the United States is not an oil producer or not energy independent, more specifically. They like to claim that we were energy independent under Trump. We are no longer energy independent under Biden, which is completely made up. We are selling some oil and we are buying some oil, but we produce roughly as much as we use, pretty much. So, yeah, we are energy independent. We just, we do trade and stuff throughout the world. So I find it interesting that she was brought on in the first place to, like, talk about the fact that the United States has their own oil, or has our own oil, that we are producing at the same rate as we are, like, buying it or whatever.
We have enough gas to power our entire country for over 300 years. And
that may be true. I'm not sure, but just as a general rule, don't trust a single word out of these people's mouths. Really, not one. Do not ever trust these people, ever. Because they have proven themselves to be completely full of shit. I looked things up from them, and it turns out they just made it up completely. Just don't trust them without looking at facts up. Ever.
We harvest it cleaner here in America and in Pennsylvania than anywhere else in the world. It's 7 times dirtier to harvest energy in Venezuela than it is right here at home. So if you care about the planet, you're going to harvest here in the United States, wherever you are in the U.S. We regulate it. But what's happened is that the current administration has not allowed leases to go forward, or there's been lawsuits from radical groups that have stopped the progress, whether it's laying pipes or building refineries. They've made it so hard.
No, not really. I mean, people are still perfectly free to do like a lot of the land leasing and a lot of the other stuff that comes along with like producing oil. We are energy independent. We have been for like a long time. We do produce roughly as much as we use, give or take. Aside from that, I noticed what she said there. This is kind of an interesting point that she made about how it's cheaper to produce oil here. I had no idea that it worked this way until recently, but there's different types of oil. There are different types of oil in different parts of the world, obviously, right? But here's where it gets interesting. You can't really use the same refinery equipment for certain types of oil that you would use for, say, if you're refining oil in the U.S., you can't use the same type of refining equipment in the U.S. as you would use to refine, say, Saudi Arabian oil or Venezuelan oil or something. Like, they're different from each other. They're different enough that the refining process is slightly different and requires different, like, equipment and chemicals and things like that, right? And what do we want the oil for in the first place? We want it for its raw products, right? Like, every pound of product that we have to ship somewhere costs a certain amount of, I don't know, just throw a number out there. It costs like $50 per pound to ship or something. That's probably not right. I'm just throwing a number out for the sake of the thought experiment, right? So when we refine the oil, we're eventually going to have less weight than we originally had when we started, right? So maybe we start with 500 pounds of raw product, and by the end of it, we have 475 pounds of finished product. When you refine oil, it refines into a number of different products. It refines into butane, kerosene, just a billion different things called fractional distillation. Let me look it up. What does oil refine into? These are fossil fuels. There are like a billion different fossil fuels. Shoot, I can't find a list of all of the things that it refines into, but gasoline, diesel, aviation fuel, naphtha is another one, which is paint thinner, butane and kerosene. And so what you do is you put it in these big old, like, refining jugs, right? The thing is, again, just throwing numbers out, these probably aren't accurate, just bear with me for a second. At certain temperatures, different things distill out. So if you take the raw product of just crude oil and you heat it up to a certain temperature, say 213 degrees, for example, that's not right, just bear with me. 213 degrees gasoline boils out, and you can send it through a condenser, which cools it off, and it drains into, like, just a jug or whatever. So 213 degrees. Well, at 214 degrees, butane boils off. At 215 degrees, naphtha boils off. So how do you get it close without actually going over is the question. Like, how do you get it to 215 degrees without going a single degree over? And the answer is, as it turns out, interestingly enough, if you put something in a vacuum environment, it lowers the boiling point and expands it out. So if you put it into a vacuum, the boiling point will lower from, say, 215 to, like, I don't know, 150 or something like that. And by lowering it, it kind of spreads out the boiling points and makes it easier to boil out the different products. So anyways, the point is that when you are dealing with refineries in different parts of the world, the oil has different different amounts of different products and things like that, and it's a lot easier and better to refine it then and there on site with the various different refining equipment that you have on site in Venezuela or in Saudi Arabia or in the United States or whatever, right? So anyway, that's probably why she's talking about refining it here in the United States rather than refining it in Venezuela or whatever else. I don't know that she even knows any of this. This is pretty technical stuff, but I'm honestly really fascinated by the logistics of a lot of this stuff. So I like to talk about it. But anyway, let's keep listening to her.
To grow our energy sector, because we actually have enough to bring the price down right now, to bring it down, and then to sell some to our allies and friends in Europe, because they don't want to buy Russian gas anymore, because they've seen that Putin has weaponized energy. So we need common sense.
I'm honestly surprised to hear some of this stuff from this woman, because most of the people on this TV show are pro-Putin. The majority of them. In fact, the host is very much pro-Putin. Now, this is like a far-right extremist MAGA TV show on the Victory Network run by Kenneth Copeland. And they are very much pro-Putin in a lot of ways. Like, constantly talking about how great the dude is and everything. It's nuts. Do you think this will be a blip in U.S. history like previous religious waves in U.S. history, or will this be a permanent desecularized USA? I guess it kind of depends on, it heavily depends on whether or not Democrats maintain the House and the Senate. The politicians that are in office in any given year or any given term or whatever heavily determine something called the Overton window, the cultural contexts or the cultural conversations that are considered to be acceptable public discourse. If Republicans and election deniers and stuff take control of the political systems long term, then no, this is going to be a permanent desecularization. We need to prevent election deniers and extremists from winning seats. That's really what it's all about. Desperately. So anyway, that's my opinion on it.
Regulations and policies, and that's what we hope to see going forward.
Well, let me read you this. Senator John Kennedy posted this. President Biden killed the Keystone XL pipeline, which would have moved roughly 800,000.
It completely made up. The Keystone pipeline is still operational. He just shut down one of the phases. And aside from that, why do we even want the Keystone pipeline in the first place? Shouldn't we be building renewable energy, not just for the environment? Like, fuck the environment if that's what you want to say. Like, who cares, right? What I care about is the fact that we can seriously be energy independent. Why wouldn't we use wind turbines? Why wouldn't we use solar power and all this other stuff? Why would we not want to go green when energy, like powering the world, is one of the key components to power struggles around the world in various different countries? Controlling energy production and shipping energy throughout the world is one of the things that makes or breaks a country in the first place. We have the option to be completely energy independent in the United States permanently without ever having to worry about oil or refining it or where to get it or any of that stuff. We don't have to worry about it. Seriously. Why would we ever, not consider going with wind turbines and stuff? I just don't get it. I don't know where these people's heads are at, honestly. I really don't. Yeah, it's just complete nonsense to me.
Thousands of barrels of oil per day by 2023. Biden cut Americans off from affordable energy. Louisianans are literally paying the price. But I won't stop fighting his green at any cost. Alex Brucewitz followed up. It's been reported by the Wall Street Journal, and this is
it's been reported, okay.
What Carla was referring to. The U.S. is easing sanctions on Venezuela so they can pump more oil. The Biden regime would rather enrich corrupt dictators than employ American energy workers. Now, that seems to be like, well, how he can't say that. But that is exactly what's happened. Let's continue. According to the Democrats who claim to be climate change experts, Venezuelan oil is good, American oil is bad, and you haven't figured it out yet. Climate change hysteria in the U.S. is funded by our foreign adversaries who want to cripple our energy industry. Let me bring in Kathy Barnett.
Okay, this is all complete nonsense. Like I said, oil from Venezuela is different than the U.S. I'm not really super sure how it's different or if it's better or worse, or which one we would prefer or whatever else, but it is very different. They're all just very different from each other. That's just kind of how it works, but okay.
Kathy, you ran a position in Pennsylvania, but so many other things that you've done that I don't think a lot of people know. You're a veteran, former adjunct professor of corporate finance, conservative political commentator, author. You spent time on Wall Street, stock exchange. You gained insight and information on the economy. I don't think you have to have all of those. I don't have all of those qualifications, but I'm looking at this like this isn't. I think most of America is looking at this, Kathy, and going, "This is not that difficult. Stop it. Stop doing that, and let's open up American pipeline energy." Is it that simple?
It's really not that simple. I mean, you could open a pipeline, but why would you? Seriously, what's the point? Honestly, what is the point when you have the choice of using clean energy, when we don't need to worry about fossil fuels or about running out of gas or any of that stuff? Why don't people go with electric vehicles? I get they're expensive right now. That's totally okay if you can't afford it or whatever else. I don't even have a car, but it makes absolutely no sense to me to demonize electric vehicles. What? Come on, people.
It really is just that simple. When I was running in my senatorial campaign, I was running for 13 months. We were doing over 1,500 miles every single week, and I was going into all sorts of homes and at events where there are 20 people or a couple of thousand people. And one of the things I noticed continuously is that our people are under a tremendous amount of pressure. We recognize that something has fundamentally gone wrong with how our nation is being governed right now. Myself and so many others, we recognize that America is still the greatest country that has ever existed. I'm so grateful.
See, this is fascinating to me. Got to get that nationalism in there. Got to talk about how amazing America is. You can never discount how incredible this country is. You just have to point out that the people in charge are complete garbage. Well, what makes this country so great? What is it about this country that is so great exactly, is my question to her. Like, the leadership sucks, energy sucks, everything sucks about this place. What is it that's so great in her mind, honestly? I would consider myself a patriot in all seriousness. I'm deeply patriotic. I love this country. I grew up here. I live here. I love this place, man, for real. But it's almost like these people have like twisted patriotism around to be something like disturbing and grotesque. Like, I don't know what's going through these people's heads, but it's just bizarre. They have a bizarre view of the world that is just completely twisted around and does not match reality in any way. It's just strange, man.
To be an American, and yet we recognize that the people who are currently running our offices right now, our government, and not just on the Democrat side, because I am a firm believer that Democrats cannot do half the stuff they're doing if there weren't certain people within the Republican Party.
Rhinos! Yeah, see, it's not just the Democrats, quote unquote. It's all of the leadership, apparently, or the vast majority of the leadership are evil. Just everybody is evil. It's just bizarre, man. Just absolutely bizarre.
Party who weren't complicit and allowing it. But we recognize that something has fundamentally gone wrong. Our country can be great again. I believe we're going to see a lot of that being shown in the November 8th election.
I believe you're absolutely right. Let me read this before I bring in Gary Cassey. From the Wall Street Journal, the U.S.
By the by, I'm sure you can tell I'm using save states, and it just makes the game a lot more fun for me. So, yeah, I'm going to keep using them. It's just what it is.
U.S. looks to ease Venezuela's sanctions, enabling Chevron to pump oil. Now, you think that's crazy. Gary, you're fixing the money thing. Your show airs right here on Victory Channel every week. Let's get him.
Who the hell is this guy?
I mean, you're a financial expert. I mean, help me understand this. Why would we not put Americans to work? And I'm serious. I'm not being facetious here.
That means he's being facetious.
Well, I am being a little sarcastic.
Told you.
But why would we put American workers on hold where they can't make money, but yet we'll ease sanctions on Venezuela and go, hey, we'll go buy your dirty, I think is what Carla called it.
Yeah, she called it that for no reason. She didn't need to call it dirty. It's not actually tethered to reality at all. It was just bigotry and hatred and racism. That's it. Just bald-faced, plain racism for no reason, honestly.
Your dirty oil and what's going on, we'll go get that oil. Is it really this crooked?
It's part of the Great Reset. It's part of the Great Reset.
Uh-oh, we got a conspiracy theory here. Oh my God, I love these conspiracy theories. There's this thing called the Great Reset, okay? I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but the Great Reset is this massive, all-encompassing, strange conspiracy theory where, God, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, okay, so I covered this woman named Mel K on my channel not too long ago. Let's just read just a simple, quick explanation of what the Great Reset is, just to give a quick rundown of it so we're all on the same page. It most famously really got started when Justin Trudeau did a video kind of referencing, a reset, a global reset. The World Economic Forum, which is just like kind of a multinational organization that's kind of like a think tank from my understanding, run by a Jewish person, adding to the conspiracy theory. The World Economic Forum comes out and they basically say COVID has completely changed the operation of many people's economies, and now is an opportunity to rebuild economies in a better way, to be more focused on the working people or the people that are most affected by it or whatever else. That's what the World Economic Forum said. It, very light specific details. They just kind of said, now is an opportunity since COVID hit for us to change the way that economies operate in the world, basically. And people just built this gigantic conspiracy theory out of it. It's insane now. Oh my God. And by the by, a lot of the stuff that is mentioned in the Great Reset conspiracy theory comes straight out of this book called The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I've talked about this before, not going to get into it too much, but I just want to point that out. I released a video on Sunday about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, so if you want to learn more about it, just watch that video. The Great Reset is from the Protocols, roughly, or some of the ideas behind it. So let's just read some of it. A number of Great Reset posts on Facebook shot up September, October, November 2020 when Justin Trudeau from Canada released a viral video saying this is an opportunity for a Great Reset, basically. And then a bunch of conspiracy theorists come out of the woodwork and start screaming about it. It went completely viral. The proposals, along with the World Economic Forum itself, face legitimate criticism from a variety of sources. Conservative political figures and media outlets accuse the organization of pushing for environmental policies that would hurt the economy. There are questions about whether unelected individuals like Charles Schwab, which is the head of the World Economic Forum, a Jewish guy, once again feeds into the conspiracy that he's Jewish, whether or not he should have the power to lobby so prominently for ideas that could potentially transform the global economy. The Davos meeting is certainly, again, Davos is associated with the World Economic Forum. The meeting is certainly filled with powerful people who have a huge influence on world events. There are also concerns about the impact of technology on civil liberties and jobs. The real energy online is not about legitimate political questions. Discussions about fossil fuels and income inequality, but in the shape of wild and unsubstantiated claims. The term Great Reset has received more than 8 million interactions on Facebook since it was mentioned. Like I said, it's kind of an all-encompassing, ambiguous, confusing conspiracy that itself is very light on details. Like the plan for the Great Reset that was suggested was light on details, and so is the conspiracy. Among the most popular posts are baseless statements that the Great Reset is a strategic part of a grand conspiracy by the global elite who somehow planned and managed the COVID-19 pandemic. In this narrative, lockdown restrictions were introduced not to curb the spread of the virus, but to deliberately bring about economic collapse and a socialist world government, albeit run for the benefit of powerful capitalists. The nebulousness of this conspiracy theory theory means it has found followers among anti-vaccine activists, anti-lockdown campaigners, New Age healers, and those on the far right and the far left. Melanie Smith, head of analysis at Graphica, who researches online movements and disinformation, says the rumors are typical of an anti-establishment conspiracy theory. The most intricate of those typically prove popular with government skeptics from across the political spectrum, she says. So, let's just read what Franklin Graham said, Billy Graham's son. There's a post from him right here. This should get our attention. Actually, it should shake us up and strike a chord of alarm in our hearts. He's a televangelist, by the by, if you don't know. Read this letter that His Excellency Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano wrote to President Trump. I'm not Catholic, but Archbishop Vigano has a lot of valid concerns. He warned, this historical moment sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of good. Daily, we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect to human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. So anyways, yeah, it's all about, it's all just conspiracy theory nonsense, and it's all very light on detail. It's really all about the cabal trying to take control of the people around you, blah, blah, blah. The cabal as a name is itself anti-Semitic. I believe, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. I think the word cabal, in reference to like some elite group of people who are trying to control the world or whatever, I believe that the word originates with the term Kabbalah, which is kind of like a Jewish cult or whatever, or a Jewish belief system or whatever. So anyways, yeah, it all routes back to anti-Semitism ultimately. Surprised? So let's keep listening to what they were saying on Flashpoint. This guy just brought up the Great Reset, and it got us all off on a tangent. So let's keep listening. The Jews.
What's going on? We'll go get that oil. Is it really this crooked?
It's part of the Great Reset. It's part of the Great Reset.
Whatever the hell that is.
They don't want to free the oil up. I believe the inflation numbers, energy trickles up through everything through groceries, everything a family buys, energy is required to move it.
Absolutely 100% agree, which is why it absolutely blows me away that people are so opposed to clean energy. Seriously, why are we still using fossil fuels? What a stupid way to run the world. Why not use wind turbines and batteries and all that other stuff? I just don't get where their heads are at, honestly.
I believe that energy is the foot on the neck that is holding America back, and they know it, and they're doing it on purpose. And this is what we have to deal with and answer. But the bottom line, of course, is we have to deal with what's happening right now, but we're believing for a great election coming up. We can change some of this. But oil, energy is the lifeblood of a nation, as you know. And
energy, I would say, is the lifeblood of a nation. Does not have to be oil. Why does he think it's oil automatically? This is bizarre, dude.
Of course, I've spent 40 years talking to families across the kitchen table, tens and tens of thousands of them over our business career. And, prices change because of energy and raw material prices. And all of those things are dependent upon energy. So I appreciate what I'm hearing from these two politicians that are speaking today. It's great.
Absolutely true that energy changes the prices of things heavily. Energy is everything in a country. An energy supply will make or break a country, straight up. Which is why I just don't understand why these people are so opposed to, basically unlimited, clean, free energy in the form of turbines and solar power and stuff like that. What is so bad about this? It just blows me away, honestly.
It is great. Let me read what Charlie Kirk said, going right to what you said. He said, you're seeing an intentional economic catastrophe unfold, Great Reset. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what we're dealing with, and we've got to wake up. And you think, well, I'll just fix that.
Wake up, sheeple. There's sheeple everywhere.
I'll go drive an electric car because that's the answer to everything.
Well, that would certainly help. but we also need turbines. It would be fantastic to have wind and solar energy. Why not? Why would we not have wind and solar energy out the wazoo? Why are they so opposed to it? I don't get it.
David Licken's with us, 47-year veteran mortgage industry founder and president of Transformational Mortgage Solutions. He's frequently on Fox Business News, other media outlets, including Flashpoint. Welcome back, David. David, the reality, and I
never heard of this guy, but I guess he's on Fox News a lot. Okay. Or I'm sorry, Fox Business. They're two different networks.
Much more than just mortgage banking, because you and Gary have this unique global understanding of how all this flows together. And you and I talked about financial issues that we're going to get into in a minute. So I don't want to go there yet. However, a lot of Americans really do believe, well, I'll just buy an electric car. And, they can't afford one. That doesn't.
Not yet, maybe. That's true. Electric cars are, they're getting more affordable, certainly. They're not absolutely absurdly priced anymore. It used to be basically unattainable, it felt like. No longer. They are no longer unattainably expensive, and that's partly because they've been around for so long that now we're in a position where there are a lot of used electric vehicles that you can buy. But aside from that, yeah, electric vehicles are fantastic. Why wouldn't you want to use electric vehicles? Seriously. I don't understand. What is so bad about using electric vehicles? Please inform me.
It really doesn't make any logical sense, but they're not hearing this in the mainstream media. They're not hearing it from a fake administration. They're not hearing it from people that know better. They're just taking it what they're hearing. They're busy. They're raising families. They're going on. What is it that you see that we have to do to get Americans to wake up and see what's really happening?
What's really happening, I hear you asking? The Great Reset is really happening in their minds. That's what they're so deeply afraid of. And you buying an electric car is feeding right into their bizarre fear of the Great Reset.
Well, we need to get back to the truth, Gene, and that's what Flashpoint's helping so many Americans get back to. So number one is the truth. What's really interesting about
No to literally all of that. It is not helping anybody get to the truth of anything. Flashpoint isn't. That is absolutely ridiculous.
cars, they're kind of taking a little bit of a hit in the chin. Did you hear the story about the cars that are blowing up?
Dude, why are they always talking shit about electric cars? Seriously, what is so bad about electric cars? Yeah, there have been a couple cases where some cars had some mechanical issues, and I think there was a fire in one of them or something like that. I don't even know. They are so much safer than gas-powered cars. Oh my God. Because they're updated with new software, autopilot in some of these vehicles and stuff like that. And aside from that, you literally never have to buy gas again. You're sitting over here complaining about gas prices because you don't have an electric car. If you bought an electric car, you'd never have to pay for gas again for the rest of your life. Think about that. I don't get where their heads are at.
Batteries wet, so they get them out. They think they're dried out, and they turn them on, get them running, and they're not blowing up, but they're self-destructing in some way.
Dude, what is he even talking about right now? Getting batteries wet and they're not blowing up, it's self-destructing. What? Can you give me a little more solid facts to go with this nonsense, please?
Cars are not. They're great. There's a great concept. I've got friends that have them. They're a cool concept, but cool doesn't work when you really look at the economics of these things.
Yes, it does. Yes, as a matter of fact, it does. They are cool as shit, and also the economics of it work out fantastically. Never having to pay for gas again for the rest of your life. Who wouldn't want to do that? Seriously. I don't understand.
First of all, they're very expensive for the most part.
For the most part. You notice all the qualifying words he's using here? There are used cars right now, used electric vehicles that you can get that are reasonably inexpensive. I mean, some of them are expensive. Brand new car? Yeah, of course. They are no more expensive than any other car out there right now. No brand new car is going to be less than, I don't know, $20,000 or something. That's roughly the cost of some of the electric vehicles. You can totally get an electric vehicle for roughly the same cost as a gas-powered one. And why wouldn't you when you literally never have to pay for gas again? I just don't get where their heads are at, where they're complaining about this. It's just to own the libs. That's the only reasoning here.
And then you look at what it costs to make the batteries. And guess where all the raw materials, a lot of the raw materials come from what nation to make these batteries? China.
Yeah, he's talking about rare earth metals. Is what it's called? It's true. Rare earth metals largely do come out of China. Where do you think this guy got his cell phone from, or the materials he needed for the cell phone? Where do you think this suit he's wearing came from? Literally everything that we own comes from China, practically. I just don't know where the guy's head is at. He's coming up with these ridiculous complaints that make no sense, that apply to like everything else too, not just electric cars, but every other item that this guy owns right now. It's just ridiculous, dude. Why are they always shitting on electric cars? I don't understand.
Yeah, China. And who else? Here, let me throw a real wrench in the works.
Please do.
Who else makes a lot of those core minerals? Who else has those mines?
India. And I think the U.S. has some.
The Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Now.
I don't know that that's true. I haven't heard that. I guess it's theoretically possible. I haven't heard anything about Ukraine having rare earth minerals mines. But okay, maybe, I suppose.
Now wait a minute. Now we're starting to see a bigger picture. Carla, let me go full circle.
What, is there a conspiracy about this?
Let's circle back. I said full circle. Well, back to you. This really is, we have to not just wake up America, but we have to educate America on what's really happening. I mean, I think this is logical. I think most people understand it. Then I run across somebody that goes, well, I'm just saving for an electric car. And that's like saying, beef comes from the grocery store. It's no concept of reality here. What is it that Americans need to do?
What? Beef comes from the grocery store? What is he talking about? I don't understand.
Let's define that even more. People watching this program are most likely have a Christian faith and they're conservative. What do they need to do?
Not everybody.
In this election, other than vote the right way.
Right. So I served in the Trump administration as the U.S. ambassador to Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands.
Oh, my God. I had no idea. That's disturbing.
We work to secure those rare earth minerals. We work to try to bring production, the processing, to the United States, and so that it's not 95% done in China or under Chinese ownership, because it's critical that we have that. But for all of your viewers, absolutely, we share so many values. When you vote, and you have to vote, even if you don't want to, you have to, please vote for the person that supports life.
Have you seen the Netflix show The Watcher at all? It's #1 in TV shows in the U.S. today, and seems to be some subtle right-wing QAnon propaganda. No, I have not seen that. Wow, I may have to check that out. Crazy. That's kind of concerning. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Thanks for the super chat.
Vote for the person who will protect your family and your children, and make sure that they protect religious liberty. Make sure that they understand what the priorities are of all of us, and it is to bring the cost of living down so that families can afford food on the table and gas in the car. And that means putting the American people first, not foreign nations, not others who, for instance, are breaking through our border in the southern border, securing the border, defending our country, making sure our military is a lethal force, not a force to do social engineering and bring all different.
Dude, there's no social engineering happening. There's none of this nonsense. It's not happening. And this whole America First BS is... Okay, her mentioning putting America first is no big deal. Like, who couldn't be in favor of putting America first, right? Like, I'd be in favor of going America first, for sure. But it's actually subtle Nazi propaganda. I don't say that lightly either. It's actually, the America First Party is very much a Nazi party. And they try to slip mentions in for themselves every now and then in shows like this. And they try to make it seem like it's coming from like a normal person or whatever like this. The America First Party is deeply broken. They are just, they're insane. They are full-blown Nazis and do not deserve our attention or interest or whatever other thing. They're insane.
Kinds of people in note. This is a force to defend our freedom and the people of the United States. So I really humbly ask that all of your viewers register now and vote for the person in your area that's going to align with your beliefs and values, religious freedom, life, your constitutionally protected rights. If you'll vote for that person, our country will be saved, because I really feel like we're on a precipice. I can barely even talk about it. I'm so upset.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Carla, that's the starting point.
Cannot hear.
That's the starting point.
Dude, what just happened? They just added a bunch of people and somebody was talking or something? Hang on, let me step back and see. 1743. Okay, let's listen again.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Carla, that's the starting point.
Cannot hear.
Oh, she said she can't hear. Okay.
That's the starting point of what we have to start with the right vote, but then we have to keep going. Let me go over here to Gary.
I love it. I love it. The technical difficulties. It's just fantastic to me when these people have like problems making their show work, because this show is deeply depraved in the things that they say, do, and believe. Like, deeply depraved. You remember Hillary Clinton talking about most people who vote for Trump are just regular people, you know, not nutcases, not bigoted, angry, whatever. But then there's a small percentage who are absolutely deplorable. Do you remember that? These are the deplorables right here, these people.
Gary Cassie, I want to show you something, Gary, from Zero Hedge. Real wages, is this the worst?
Okay, Zero Hedge has been recognized by the FBI and others as a Russian propaganda node, basically. And it was famously used in the Alex Jones Sandy Hook trial as evidence that they had no idea what they were talking about, no idea what they were doing. They never checked any of their sources or any of that stuff, because they used a Zero Hedge thing, like article, as a source, and it turned out to be just complete nonsense. So I find it so deeply fascinating that they're referring to Zero Hedge right now.
Worst administration in history. Real wages under Biden have declined for a record 18 months. That means U.S. incomes have been below inflation since.
Again, if this is from Zero Hedge, which that's what it says here. Well, look, God, I love it. Look at their profile picture. Look at the profile picture in the top left corner. Really zoom in and look at this. I want you guys to see this. I can't zoom in anymore, or I would. It is this is not a legitimate organization at all. It is a Russian disinformation node. Nothing more, nothing less. With a picture of a sexy guy with no shirt on for a profile picture. Why are they quoting this? How do they come to the conclusion that this is trustworthy in any way at all? It is not. It's complete BS.
To start of 2021. You see the graph there, Gary.
I do see a graph. Doesn't mean what's on the graph is true, but okay, I see one, yeah.
And you can see, let me zoom in to the next one. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, why didn't they zoom in on the guy with no shirt on? I would have preferred that.
You see the average weekly earnings, 1982 to 84. But you see that box over there on the right. This is where Americans are at. This is where they are. This is what they're living in.
Again, it's completely made up. I do not trust a single word out of these people's mouths. Certainly not when they're quoting Zero Hedge, a known, identified Russian disinformation farm.
And they are living right there in that red box. So, Gary, when they see this...
you know what I'm wondering? Did they inflate Trump's years? I'd be willing to bet they did. 1842. Let me just step back to... Where was the chart? Okay, yeah, here. Yeah. See, isn't that interesting? So this chart is supposed to be all the way back to 2007. Isn't it interesting how Donald Trump raised wages through the roof, higher than it had ever been on this chart? I don't believe this chart for a single second. Just setting aside the fact that the source is a known Russian disinformation node, it's kind of ridiculous the way that they're portraying this. Trump was the biggest and the best and made the best decisions. It made everybody the strongest and blah, blah, blah. And then Biden comes into office and he makes everything the worst. He's just absolutely terrible in every way. It's just ridiculous.
That red box. So, Gary, when they see this, and then we get the news today, Americans already know this is what they're dealing with. They already know that. They're living it every day when they go to the grocery store or to the gas pump. So they're living with that. And then they get the news, which is no shock to anybody in America, that inflation is at record high since 1982. What does that mean, Gary? What is that going to do to us?
See, they're hitting all of the culture war issues that they think will be the most beneficial to the Republicans coming into the midterms. They're doing everything they can to fear-monger, twist things around, manipulate statistics, and spread disinformation, and whatever it takes, because they have an ends justify the means mentality, which is a hallmark of a cult. That is one of the things that makes something a cult, an ends justify the means mentality, a willingness to do absolutely anything to accomplish your goals, no matter what it may be, because the goal is the important part. Jehovah's Witnesses have this same exact ideology, the same belief. So does Scientology. Most cults have this. And here we see it happening right in front of us.
It's like a big exclamation mark on the way families have been living in debt before this happened. Living on debt, trusting that the interest rates will stay low, which we knew they wouldn't. We have now
Nobody expected interest rates to stay low. We expected them to go up because that's one of the ways you remedy inflation. That's how you fix it, is by raising interest rates and the housing bubble and stuff. Interest rates are high right now because they're trying to remedy the issues with the economy. So this is not a surprise at all. Reagan started most of this, been seeing the country go downhill since Nixon. Oh, absolutely. 100%, yeah. Reagan most definitely did start a lot of this. He started the whole trickle-down economics thing. Well, I don't know that he probably didn't come up with the term, but he tried to implement it during his term, and it just destroyed the country in so many ways. It's honestly sad. That's all I've got for you this time. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments or on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys.